around. I got it out of the garage. It did start. A little bit of priming, and of course a new battery, but it had been sitting for several years. And it's very dirty and cobwebby. And yes, I do have the hubcap. I had to take it off, put air in that tire, and I couldn't get it back on. I didn't bring a rubber mallet. I'm going to beat it on there. But anyway, it was painted, I believe it was 98 or 99. They had quarters put on it, a little bit of other work. It's scratched now. The paint job wasn't the best, but it's definitely driver quality. It shines. It does clean up pretty nice. And yes, it is a 6-cylinder car, for those of you wondering. This was the base model of Mustang that you could get in '65, which also means, and I'm going to tell you what I know about it anyway. It originally was a 170 inline 6 with a non-synchronized first gear 3-speed on the floor. It has 13-inch tires, 4-lug of course, drums all the way around. That's standard on the 6-cylinder cars. Probably not the 13-inch though, but anyway, this was, like I said, you got no amenities to it. I believe it had an AM radio, although the interior was redone. Let me open this door. The carpet was guaranteed never to fade, and it did, and it was only outside probably a year or two. School parking lot in 98, 99, but it didn't make any difference. It still faded really bad. It's orange. I'm sure the camera's picking that up. I know sometimes the cameras will pick them up as orange even though they're black. This is definitely orange on the top. But the dash pad was replaced. The headliner was replaced. It's a little dirty. I parked it in the garage a few years ago, actually about 10, 12 years ago, and I parked it in there backwards. And the garage is climate controlled, but the dryer hose had fell off, and it was dumping that stuff right behind the car, and it completely molded the back seats. You can still possibly see some mold in there, and I cleaned it, but it's come back. But I cleaned it years ago. There's some on the back of the front seats too, which I got to do some cleaning, of course. Got to get a package tray replacement, or at least cover it with something. But anyway, the 3-speed eventually went bad. I don't know if you kept trying to put it in first gear or just wore out. I mean, you know, as a kid driving it, I mean, I drive the crap out of them. I'm 50, I still drive the heck out of them. But anyway, so Joe, which was my father-in-law, who's deceased now, he's the one who bought the car and had it fixed and everything. And he had a garage sale, I believe he told me, found a Borg-Warner 3-speed. It was behind a 289 car. And he bought it for like 35 bucks. And mind you, this was a long time ago. And he drug it home. And well, when this 3-speed went bad, he wanted me to put the motor in, or transmission in it. So I went ahead and pulled the transmission out. And boy, it was an obvious difference in weight, size. You know, I mean, it was obvious that this was not. It just wasn't even going to fit. Sure enough, it didn't even come close to fitting in the bell housing. So we dug around and we found one out of a 67, another non-synchronized 3-speed, and had a little longer input shaft. And although I could have cut it down, at the time I decided not to, so we found a bell housing that fit the T3 6-cylinder, but it would not fit the 170. I'm not a Ford guy, but I know that they're a pain in the butt when it comes to trying to get stuff bolted together. It's not like a Chevy where about anything will bolt everything. But anyway, so in the long run, the only way we could actually get this to use that transmission was a guy had one, and it now has a 67 200 inline 6 in it with that Borg-Warner 3-speed, and the thing fired right up after I primed it a couple of times. The gas in it was real old, but didn't have much in it, so I put 5 gallons of good non-alcohol gas. Here in Kansas we can still get non-alcohol gas some of the stations. So anyway, like I said, the car still shows good. I'm gonna close the hood. Like I said, it's the bumpers and stuff were replaced when they redid it. All the chrome except the rear taillights, all the chrome around the windows I believe was replaced. It does have a lot of scratches and stuff in it. Like I said, until I get it completely clean, it does need taillights. That's one thing they did not replace when they did it. They're cracked and you can see they're pitted, which is typical. But I just wiped this with my finger just a little bit, and you can see it shined up right there. So the chrome is, you know, it's pretty good besides the taillights, which are easy to get nowadays. But anyway, I'll sit down there and start it up. It's showing 25,000 miles on the odometer. Of course, I have no idea how many miles are really on the car. But anyway, I'm going to have to switch hands here. I got to reach down, so forgive my fingers. Typical 6-cylinder though. Fires right up. I bought a set of points and condenser and fuel pump, and I'm going to have to replace all the hoses. They're all pretty, you know, even being inside all these years, it's going to need them all, and I'm going to get plugs, wires, cap, rotor, you know, the normal stuff you have to do. But yeah, he did put this aftermarket radio in it. It does not work. I'm not sure that it ever did. It may have. I don't know. It comes on, just doesn't make any sound. So I'm going to probably just find a factory AM radio, and if I put anything aftermarket in it, it'll probably be mounted underneath the dash. You know, just something to, if you can hear that, forgive me, that was my air compressor kicking on. I was airing the tires up with. But anyway, so we'll go and put a factory, and this is to prove that it hasn't been that long since a car was actually driven. That was class of '99, and he went to the military directly after that. And so when he came back out of boot camp, he ended up buying a pickup truck, and then he went over to Okinawa for a couple of years. So it sat and sat, and then when he got out of school, or out of the military after 4 years, I think he drove it for like a month or so, and then it's been sitting. I think I've drove it probably more than anybody has the last 10 years or better. But anyway, the old girl sounds good still. I mean, it's got a little piston slap noise, which is typical on the old Fords, at least everyone I've been around, but definitely sounds like an old 6-cylinder still. But anyway, I think I want to keep the 6 for a little while. I actually have a T3 that came out of excuse me, T5 that came out of a old mid-80s turbo coupe. I don't know if I can bolt that in without having to get an adapter. I know they sell one for the T5s, but because this has a big bell housing, I'm sure it'll bolt to it. I just think it's too long. I think it's going to be running the same story that the older ones did. But anyway, we'll deal with that when it comes. But I think I'll keep the 6 for a while. I'm going to hunt at least a 5-lug front rear, you know, front spindles and some rear axle, just because I want disc brakes, and you can get them with the 4-lug stuff. But I think I'll kick it around, decide what I'll. But I think it's kind of a hunter or a forest green. It's got metallic in it. It's actually a really pretty color. So I think what I'll do is just buff it all out. It sure would look good with a set of Kragers in it or something. So we'll deal with that when time comes. So we'll keep you posted on. After I clean it, I'll give you another video.